Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a US election update, kind of daily update that I haven't done for many days, so not a daily update. And I have an awful lot of content, like a massive amount of content. And it is the DNC at the moment, the Democratic National Committee convention taking place. And I don't want to give any analysis of that because I'm going to do that as a separate video. There's been already one day and a second day in process of that, and there is a lot to discuss concerning what has already been said and the speeches that took place yesterday. Some absolutely firebrand speeches, a real, I think, tangible difference between the RNC and the DNC, which I think reflects both campaigns, and I think reflects where both parties are at in terms of being serious about policy and being serious about governing, and I just everything about both conferences shows a marked difference between where they are at and how they do things. But that will come in my next video. I'm going to give all of the analysis of what has happened up to the DNC. So please indulge me. Okay, we're going to start with doing the groundwork again in terms of this is important for why. When any bit of nugget, any morsel of news or evaluation of what has been going on needs to be seen in terms of how does it affect the people in the middle. There are all these demographics. You've got, let's think, old people, young people, black people, Latino people, Asian people, white people, evangelicals, Catholics, other Christians, non-Christians, Muslims, independents, obviously registered and likely Democratic voters and registered and likely Republican voters, swing voters, women, women of color, all of these subcategories. And you can, these are split amongst both those parties, but certain parties skew better with certain demographics. So the question is, what Trump has just said, or has what Harris has just said, or Biden, or Waltz, or Vance, or Carlson, has this person said something that is going to positively affect one of these demographics to bring them into their fold? It's all we need to concern ourselves with. So Suzanne Melendi here says, and thank you for this comment, JP, you're absolutely spot on with this one. Trump continues to preach to his choir, but is totally unable to pitch a winning key. In fact, his choir is dwindling, and what's left is terminally cacophonous. Meanwhile, the Harris campaign is conducting a masterclass in uplifting diverse voices in joyous harmony. I've never ever been so happy to have been so wrong in my life. R.E. Biden dropping out. So this is someone who thought Biden should have stayed in, but he dropped out, and Harris is now killing it in the polls. But it's all about, is Harris bringing over those people to increase the size of her base, or is she just playing to her base? And is Trump bringing people over to his base, or is he just playing to his base? And I would argue that Harris is more expansionist in her campaigning, and Trump is very isolationist in his campaigning, rather like his MAGA foreign policy objectives in being a US isolationist. He wants to be a MAGA isolationist. He wants to rule the US just for those people who are vehemently supportive of him, and he's not so bothered about the swing voters and the independents and nicking some Democrats over to his cause. But he cannot get voted in when he's only getting a 40 to 46% hard ceiling. So she continues, my faith in the US electorate is being restored daily, and these old legs go to bed tired from all the dancing I'm doing in the new Kamala playlist. I sure hope you're finding time. So, etc., etc. So that's where she's at. Obviously, someone who's very supportive of Harris and Democrats, but it goes to this idea that it's all about who is your choir? Is it a choir that is growing? Okay. The Pod Save America team discussed this a little bit here.
The other thing, when I was talking to Pluff, he said that Trump is at 46 in some of these battleground states. He's as high as 48 in some other battleground states. But it makes me think that he's not really gaining a lot of vote share here, and his vote share has been relatively stable this entire race, even with all that's happened. Survives an assassination attempt, convicted felon, wins the debate with Biden. Like, Biden went up, and then Kamala Harris went up, but like Donald Trump has stayed steady. So how do you win if you're between 46 and 48% of the vote? Well, you try to peel off some of her voters and either have them go third party or have them stay home. And you do that by just a scorched earth campaign where you say as much crazy shit about her as possible. It seems like that's his path. Is that like if she consolidates enough vote where she's getting,
and this is a problem. So if that's his path to victory, the scorched earth approach, then that is just a destructive campaign of negativity against who Kamala Harris and who Tim Walz are, right? And that's personal attacks, ad hominem attacks, and so on and so forth, and not presenting anything joyous or positive about what you are going to do with the country. It's all about negative stuff and stopping immigration and deporting millions and millions of migrants. Okay, fair enough. I'm not decrying that as a policy per se, but you need to be presenting something a bit more positive as well. As, what's your real positive vision that's going to unite all of these demographics towards your cause? And I don't think the scorched earth policy is the correct one.
Getting 48, 49, 50 in these states, he can't win.
That's right. And there is scorched earth, and then there is strategic attacks that actually peel off voters, right?
Yes,
he's just throwing
that's it.
All the shit against the wall. And once again, he is judging success or failure based on the applause of people who would lie down in moving traffic for him,
right,
not on the voters' vote side. Actually, like, if you're trying to, like, who is the soft Kamala Harris voter who's going to listen to the stuff Trump just said and move away from her based on that? No. Some of the stuff they have on air about immigration and the economy, that's a different deal. But Trump, there's a real gap between what Trump's saying and what's in the paid media. And what, frankly, in the presidential campaign, what the candidate says in the broader social media conversation is way more important than the ads. And until those get in alignment, he's in trouble, I think.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that 100%. So think about that in terms of everything we go through now. So the first port of call is going to be ex-Nikki Haley voters rally behind Kamala Harris. Quote, I picked the side that had the least issues. This is an article in The Guardian, admittedly a left-wing newspaper, but there are Nikki Haley voters for Harris. Nikki Haley tried to take them to court for using her name, but they literally were Nikki Haley primary voters who have said, we are never Trumpers, we are Republicans, but we ain't voting for Trump. We were voting for Nikki Haley as a much better option than Trump, and now we're going to go and vote for Harris. And even Nikki Haley came out recently and said Trump won't win, basically, if he keeps doing these attacks on her race, in calling names and saying that he's got a bigger crowd, etc., etc. And yet he's still doing that. And so when you have news of these, again, it's peeling off those voters who would otherwise be voting for the other side to your side. Is that happening more in one direction than the other? Arguably, in fact, almost certainly empirically, yes. So here's an example of Nikki Haley voters. I could bore you with this article. I wouldn't bore you, it's very interesting. But you have a lot of voters, and you are also getting a number of Republicans now coming out and speaking at the DNC. So you've got Adam Kinzinger, you've got the Georgian, is it the Georgian mayor or one of the Georgian lawmakers as well? It is a bit of an issue for the Republicans. They must be in panic mode at the moment. So again, that's another sign that voters are peeling off more in one direction than another. Here we have breaking news in a stunning announcement. Local GOP leaders in Pennsylvania are banding together to support Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and even Republicans acknowledge it. Let's listen to this.
The bylaws, and correct me if I'm wrong on the technical aspects here, but the bylaws for the county, Pennsylvania Republican committees say that committee members are supposed to support the endorsed ticket. I think you're facing a disciplinary hearing over this. Should you lose your position? Will you lose your position?
So the hearing is Monday at 6 p.m. via Zoom. I do anticipate that I am going to lose that hearing, and I will be ousted because I broke the bylaws. By endorsing Vice President Harris for office. I've been pretty open and honest about that. Listen, I said that I would do my job as an elected committee person until 2026 with my message of we got to move away from Trump. So I'm going to continue to do that until they kick me out. And my argument is I didn't commit 34 felonies. I haven't disrespected our veterans, and I didn't drag our country through one of the darkest days in American history. So if I broke a bylaw and you want to kick me out for that, that's fine with me.
This is fascinating. So we'll come to the veterans in a minute, because this is a real issue, I think, for Trump. And again, is that going to peel off voters from the other side, or is it going to lose you voters to the other side? Now, here we have clearly a moderate Republican who's mentioned felonies and felony counts that Trump has been convicted of, and January the 6th. These are things that are still problems for those moderate Republicans, those Reagan Republicans. And if you're going to lose them, you will not win the election. Trump needs to win every single vote he won in 2020. And remember, he still lost then. He needs all of them and more. And in order to get the and more, you need to be peeling off those voters. He is not doing that. And then it comes to this piece of news, which is like blows my mind, but then it's understandable because things are going badly in his campaign. And this is not unusual for Trump. He gets rid of people. He has fall guys for problematic situations. He has a campaign that's flailing at the moment. Is gone from a shoo-in, absolutely gonna walk it with Biden and with the assassination attempt, to a couple of weeks later, no one remembers the assassination attempt and everyone's talking about Harris. And he's now losing in virtually all the polls. So something has to change. Now, my opinion is it's changing in exactly the wrong way. So rather than getting rid of the people who are convincing him that going full on MAGA is the right way to attract those people in the middle, he's going to get rid of those two moderate Republican campaign managers, Lasavita and Wiles, and replace them with who? A real big problem.
Easing into the Palantir. I say things and they happen.
Okay, well, and this is why you're here.
This is the Bulwark podcast. These guys are former Republicans.
Just 2 days ago, Javo, in his newsletter, which you must subscribe to on thebulwark.com, wrote about how Trump's leading campaign managers, kind of his co-campaign manager team, Chris LaCivita, who was famed for doing swift vote Veterans for Truth against John Kerry, and Susie Wiles, my former boss, the two of them were going to be on the outs because Trump needed someone to blame. 2 days later, the news is in. Trump is restructuring. There's turmoil. People are looking over their shoulders. And you know who's in? The douchiest person in the history of the whole Trump cinematic universe. Stabby eyes, Cory Lewandowski.
Yeah. Boy, it's amazing, right? I guess he couldn't bring in Bannon because Bannon's in jail, right?
Seriously, the only reason they couldn't bring in Bannon is because he's in jail. Okay.
And just think about that. You've got Steve Bannon in jail. You've got Navarro in jail and now out of jail. You've got this chap that we're going to look a little bit into, just full of criminal activity. But this is a state of play at the moment for the Republicans.
Let me get to Cory second. Bad breath, Cory Lewandowski, as I used to call him. For the OGs of the Bulwark, you would know that Cory once pushed me in a spin room and then put his stinky breath right in my face after debate. So we'll give you the longer story on that another day. But before we get to Cory, Lasavita and Wiles, you saw this. You were looking into the orb just 2 days ago. And you're like, these guys might be on. They're not fired yet, but it's coming. How hot's the hot seat? What do you think?
I mean, it's got to be somebody. Somebody has to take the fall for this, and he can't fire JD. Probably he can't fire Tucker. He can't fire Don Jr. And so we're about to hit the Democratic convention, and I think by the end of the Democratic convention and the midweek of the week after, she's probably going to be sitting on either a 5 or 6 point lead. in the polling average over Trump, at which point he's going to lose his mind. And that's, rolling into
Even
2
worse.
weeks later, the debate, right? So she's going to hit her ceiling, and maybe it'll be an artificial ceiling. Maybe it'll be just a post-convention bounce. But when the guy who has spent the last year basically measuring drapes for his old office is suddenly down 5 large to a black lady, I'm sorry. That's just not going to go over well, and someone's going to have to get fired. Plus,
so it's looking like those two are going to be sidelined. Now, if you don't know who Cory Lewandowski is, he is looking at being rehired, a figure with a troubling history, says Brian Kresenstein here, of alleged misconduct and controversy. Here's a reminder of who he is. He's got sexual assault allegations from 2021, battery charges from 2016, mocked an immigrant child with Down syndrome in 2018 TV appearance, incitement of Trump's inflammatory rhetoric, and so on and so forth. So he's a really, really problematic guy, and yet that's who they go to. In the same way that Trump has gone back to Paul Manafort, who with his dealings with Russia, who he pardoned, did he as well. Just go and watch Active Measures on Amazon Prime to get an understanding of who Paul Manafort is and how compromised the 2016 campaign, Trump campaign was compromised by Russia. Incredible documentary. Now, at the same time, we've got Senator James Lankford, voted the second most conservative senator in the GOP. So this guy is, GOP through and through. And he was one of the architects of the immigration bill. He's now coming out and pretty formally saying that it was Trump that tanked that bill. And that was a bill that should have passed if you were serious about trying to sort out the problems at the border.
I know you're not trying to zing your colleagues, but it's your colleagues in your party, sir, who torpedoed this, who didn't get the facts right on what you just outlined was in that measure. They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats.
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways. After President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election. It's the single biggest issue during the election. Don't resolve this. We'll resolve it next year. Quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away. I get that. That's a decision everybody makes in it. My issue is if we're pursuing everything, we very often end up with nothing. If we're pursuing someone coming later to fix it, later seems to never come. When we have a moment to fix things, we should fix as many things as we can then come back later and fix the rest.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
That, again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this.
So, yes, that's an implicit yes, that was Donald Trump. That he's got an office that he's running for. That's why he did it. There you go. So it's really frustrating when it's the Democrats that get blamed for that when that bill was tanked by the Republicans. Right, then you have this. So think about what we just said in terms of how do you win this election? You need to attract those other people. This is Senator Lindsey Graham, just off the back of visiting Kiev in Ukraine. It's a Republican. Saying this.
Question here,
Right.
Senator Graham.
How can you be for the Green New Deal? Wait a minute. How can you be for the Green New Deal and not be opposed to fracking? That's BS.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me ask you, big picture, bottom line me here. Do you think former President Trump should stop talking about Vice President Harris's race and intelligence?
Yeah, I think. In my view, is that me and Nikki need to go to Georgia. We're giving advice on TV to President Trump. He's got a lot of critics. He's got a lot of...
That's Nikki Haley giving advice to Trump. Stop doing, like I said earlier, Nikki Haley had said, you need to stop attacking Harris on her race and just in general, you need to stop comparing crowd sizes and get on and talk substance and policy.
Advisors, but to Nikki Haley and DeSantis and Youngkin and all these great people we have, let's get together and actually campaign for the guy rather than just give advice. But in the advice-giving column, here's what I would say. Donald Trump President Trump can win this election. His policies are good for America, and if you have a policy debate for president, he wins. Donald Trump, the provocateur, the showman, may not win this election. So I'm looking for President Trump to show up in the last 80 days to define what he will do for our country, to fix broken borders, to lower inflation.
So lots of people are talking about that he said the provocateur Trump may not win this election. And that's actually quite an admission, because everyone's full of bravado and say, yeah, we're going to win and we need to do this. And yeah, but it's like, if we do this, we may not win. And that is, what is this? Well, Trump being Trump. If Trump continues being Trump, he will lose. So Trump needs to change direction. Now, getting rid of Lasavita and Wiles will not change direction for him. Getting in Cory Lewandowski will just see Trump doubling down on his nonsense rhetoric at his rallies and just being too abrasive. Now, talking about being abrasive, there appears to be no change of tack. Donald Trump says he'll continue with personal attacks against Vice President Harris.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence. I think
it's just ridiculous. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence. She's demonstrably more intelligent than you, as far as I'm concerned. Like, even in your sphere of expertise, which is business, you have been a failure. Trump stakes. Trump Media's going down the pan. Trump University sued for $25 million. 4 of your businesses gone bankrupt, at least. You've only got where you are at. You didn't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You were given, $140 million by your dad. So don't go and slag off someone else's intelligence when they are a prosecutor and have been the Attorney General and are clearly intelligent, speaking multiple languages. Like, yes, we can define intelligence in lots of different ways, but she's clocking most of those ahead of you, Mr. Trump. So this is not the way to go. And just what Senator Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley were talking about, and yet he's doubling down. And he's doubling down and then going to Cory Lewandowski and getting rid of people who would see him not double down. It's just, strategically, Trump is being so naive here. Ron Filipkowski says, oh, look, the Trump campaign has a new smear. Tired of this yet, America? So not only is it a case of attacking Harris with kind of invective and juvenile insults, but they're also trying to invent stuff on her. So this is James Blair saying, a lot of rumours out there about Kamala having a serious drinking problem, apparently coming into focus as the campaign heats up. Stay tuned. It's just like, really? As someone says, for the record, there are no rumours out there about Kamala having any kind of a drinking problems. Always remember, all Trump and his supporters ever do is lie to win elections, because God knows they don't have a prayer of winning elections by telling the truth. So I know that's a bit of rhetoric back, but that's kind of how I see it, which is, and I think it shows desperation. Like, if the Republicans weren't desperate, they'd be campaigning on policy now. Well, that's what they should be doing anyway. But instead of saying, oh, should we take them on this substance and that substance and that substance? Let's go to the economy. Let's do this. Let's talk to people's pocket. Let's talk about groceries and inflation. No, we're going to just say Kamala Harris has got a drinking problem. Okay, brilliant. Is that going to win the election? No. And then, yeah. This just blows my mind. Brian Krasenstein says, watching homophobe self-proclaimed alpha males now feel obligated to argue that a 77-year-old overweight man is better looking than Kamala Harris has me cracking up.
I am much better looking than her. I think I'm much better. I'm a better looking person than Kamala.
John, please. I'm not normally one to advise Republicans, but I'd say Trump is long overdue for an intervention.
I am much better.
Listen to this again. Listen to the way he then... like, the way his voice goes up here. I always like to concentrate on the little things and see what they tell us. Here, this is something that really is affecting him. He's so fragile. His ego is so fragile that he has to have bigger crowds. He has to be the best at everything. And that's the way that he comforts himself. That's the way he self-validates. Here is like, oh, she's a woman. And the other day, he accidentally let out that she was good looking on that cover of the Time magazine. But he said that's a drawing, and it reminded me of First Lady Melania. And everyone took the piss out of him for that. And now he's come back and said, actually, I'm way better looking than her. Maybe he's saying I'm way better looking than my own wife, but which, you know, I don't know. Much better.
I'm a better looking person than Kamala.
I'm a better looking person than Kamala. He actually called her the right name then. I can't think of a situation whereby I would stand up at a lectern and say that about an opposition member and just not feel cheap and dirty and crap and crass. And yet this is what he's being warned not to do. And he's doubling down saying, no, I think I can attack her. And then just says, I'm better looking than her. But then it gets worse. So there was this big thing about the Medal of Honor against the Medal of Freedom, was it? So the Medal of Freedom is given out to civilians. And he was saying that it's actually a better medal to get than a Medal of Honor, because if you get a Medal of Honor, it's because you've been shot up and you're not in perfect shape. And if you get a Medal of Freedom, you're really fit and healthy. And so therefore, Medal of Freedom's better. And like the Medal of Honor is like for valor and courage in battle. And just, what are you doing? Like, you've got vets here who should be really, given how Republicans and conservatism is associated with tradition and nationalism, not bad nationalism, but general kind of national pride. Liberals are more likely to challenge authority and so on and so forth. And so if you look at the armed forces of most countries, you will find far fewer lefty liberals in the armed forces than you will do conservative people who sit on the right. And so vets should be a bit of an easy target for Republicans. And here he is just blowing that. Just what? Anyway, in his latest attack on vets, Trump has dismissed Medal of Honor recipients as dead or in bad shape, saying that Medal of Freedom he gave billionaire megadonor Miriam Edelson is actually much better because she's a healthy, beautiful woman. Really?
I have to say, Miriam, I watched Sheldon sitting so proud in the White House when we gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because
it's actually much better.
It's the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. It's very...
That's like saying, oh, do you know GCSE Spanish is much better than a Medal of Honor, because if you're doing GCSE Spanish, and most people that get GCSE Spanish in the English education system are fit and healthy. Their kids are 16 years old, and so therefore it's a much better award than the Medal of Honor. What are you doing? Literally used the words a much better award. You are an absolute tool. Not only is that, I think, offensive, but again, it goes back to, is this going to attract other people? Is this going to peel off voters from the other side to your side? No, it's not.
And they're rated equal. I have to say, Miriam.
And he gets away with it because people in the audience clap him because they clap anything he says. Then he got into trouble over saying that because it was insane. And because he can't ever admit he's at fault, he just doubles down or doesn't really answer the question. So Amy McGrath here says, he just doesn't get it. There is no comparison. You don't earn the Medal of Honor for being horribly shot up or being injured. You earn it for acts of bravery and selfless sacrifice, something of which Trump has no concept. So the Kamala Wins Twitter feed says, Donald Trump just doubled down on the derogatory comments regarding Medal of Honor winners. This is as unpatriotic as it gets. Retweet to make sure, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Many veterans are upset about that, including here in Pennsylvania.
No, I didn't hear that. I only heard, when I say better, I would rather in a certain way get it, because people that get the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I've given to many, are often horribly wounded or dead. They're often dead. They get it posthumously. And when you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, I always consider that to be the ultimate, but it is a painful thing to get it. When you get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's usually for other things, like you've achieved great success in sports, or you've achieved great success someplace else. When you get the Medal of Honor, generally speaking, and I've met many of them, and I've seen the families of many of them, this is an incredible honor, but it was a statement that it's much more painful to get, because they're oftentimes in very bad shape. I've seen them come up and...
I mean, he's either just being really offensive or being really, really, really dumb. And so when he starts insulting the intelligence of Kamala Harris and makes comments like this, of false comparisons like this, false equivalences, or not even equivalent, he's actually saying the other one's better, then you're dumb as a box of rocks, mate. And you insulting Kamala Harris's intelligence is doubly galling. But listen at the beginning here. Also interesting that he says, "Oh, I didn't hear that," and I think this talks to the information bubble he probably sits in.
Because many veterans are upset about that, including here in Pennsylvania.
No, I didn't hear that. I only heard, when I say better...
I only heard this. Okay, maybe you need to start listening more.
Generally speaking, and I've met many of them, and I've seen the families of many of them, this is an incredible honor, but it was a statement that it's much more painful to get, because they're oftentimes in very bad shape. I've seen them come up.
Just repeats himself.
They've suffered greatly, whereas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody suffered, other than they've worked hard and they've done great things. One's a military...
So, I don't want to spend any more time on this idiocy, but it's interesting that he does just repeat himself 3 times.
Award, but sometimes very painful to get the other.
He might have actually repeated himself 4 times there. Okay, so now we have Adam Kinzinger, who is a former Republican lawmaker and veteran himself, talking about this.
So I know everybody's chiming in on what Donald Trump said about the Medal of Honor and Medal of Freedom, and they should be, because this is outrageous. And if Kamala would have said this would have led every news channel in the entire universe.
Why hasn't Fox News gone absolutely batshit crazy on Trump for saying that? If Kamala Harris had said that, they would have excoriated her.
I want to point something out differently, though, but let's just go over what he said once again. I watched Sheldon sitting there proud in the White House that she was getting this medal. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but a civilian version. It's actually much better, because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. They're soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. And they're rated equal, but she got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Listen, obviously, this is insane. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it goes to very good people, right? I mean, that's fine. That's great. In this case, a donor, not a war hero or anything. But not to denigrate that. But the Medal of Honor...
Don't forget that she's beautiful.
Why is it that Donald Trump just can't understand the sacrifice behind it? And it's easy. He's a narcissist. Narcissists are unable to have empathy, and they're unable to think of anything bigger than themselves. The only thing that matters between the Medal of Honor and the Medal of Freedom is, how does this benefit him?
Which is why when Trump went into Chickerfield to speak to those people, he was like, how's business going? Are you guys getting good profits and blah, blah, blah? Speaking to these people behind the counter, you don't get any share in a profit, get minimum wage and tips if they're lucky. And his go-to is... he can only think in terms of himself, which is like, well, my metric of success is how much money I'm making. So you guys there, even though you can't make shed loads of money doing that job, because there's only so many hours a day you can work, and there's only so much you can get paid for doing that. And yet, how's business going, guys? All he can do is talk about his own experiences of life and project them onto other people. He can't empathize. He can't do intersubjectivity. Whereas, like, okay, I'm not you, but I know enough people and I understand you and I understand your position. Like, I'm a rich billionaire, but I understand what it means to be on a poverty line, and I understand what it means to have that kind of job. You know, I've seen enough films or read enough books, or etc., etc. And so I will ask questions that are relevant to you because I want to empathize with you and connect with you. He can't do that.
Well, the Medal of Honor doesn't benefit him. It actually honors the people that basically had the worst day of their life and acted heroically. The Medal of Freedom in this case does benefit him because he gave it to a donor and a donor's wife. He gives it to people like Rush Limbaugh got it, people that benefit him. So of course in his mind it's not only equal, it's better. And plus these people don't come back with bullet holes and everything in them. This is deep-seated narcissism. And anybody in MAGA out there defending this, it's fine if you still want to vote for Trump, whatever. But to defend this just shows insanity. So that's all I wanted to say. Look, I would actually have sympathy for him if he wasn't bringing the country down with him. So this guy is unbelievably incapable of thinking of anything bigger than himself, and we need to flush him down the toilet of history.
I couldn't agree with him more. Like, he's absolutely nailed that evaluation there. And then we saw this bizarre situation where, so Taylor Swift is this megastar, like the biggest star in the world, arguably. And people are waiting on tenterhooks to see who she is going to endorse. Now, it's expected she would endorse Democrat. She's previously in the last election, got an absolute ton of people to register. And did she officially endorse Biden last time? But anyway, it was all like hotly anticipated, and it's thought she would endorse Kamala Harris this time round, or will, or might, or whatever, or do it very subtly. Now, Trump then put this out on Truth Social, and he's gone, I accept, right? And these are supposedly Taylor Swift voters who are Swifties for Trump. But what he's failed to do is realize that these are AI generated pictures, and this article on the top left is denoted as satire, right? This is like a Babylon Bee or something, Daily Onion article. Just, these aren't Swifties for Trump. These are AI generated pictures, and or at most one person photograph from two angles. Just what is going on, mate? Sort it out. So then he's been ranting again on crowd sizes. Nikki Haley says don't rant about crowd sizes. So what does he do? Goes and rants about crowd sizes. Don't insult Kamala Harris. So what does he do? He goes and insults Kamala Harris. So no, real Donald Trump. We posted a video of your empty rally while you were speaking. Americans are tired of your lies and start slur-filled delusions. It's getting old. So what happened is Democrats did show videos of him at rallies where the crowds were poor, people leaving. Here's one example while he was speaking here. So while Tim Walz fills an entire stadium on Omaha, Nebraska, Donald Trump is failing to fill even a small arena. Trump's rally starts in 3 minutes, and this is a crowd. So actually, this is 3 minutes before he is speaking. But there's another one which is filmed while he's speaking. And you've got whole areas of this empty. And, the top tier is barely filled in certain areas, and the back not filled as well. And also, whenever you see these pieces of footage, you've got to remember that someone is standing there doing this, and therefore doing it for a reason. So you've got someone that's filming that. You don't film stuff just for shits and giggles, right? You don't just go, oh, I've just filmed that and uploaded that to social media. Wow, that was fun, wasn't it? You do that because this is markedly poor showing, right? That's the only reason you would film that and upload that to social media. So anyway, things like that, and other ones where he is talking as well, and the crowds there are many empty seats and people are leaving. So then he responds, we had to turn away lots of people yesterday in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, but Comrade Kamala Harris's social media operations showed empty seats long before the rally started, early in the afternoon when in actuality, we had to turn away 11,500 people. I don't understand that he's saying she had empty seats long before the rally started. Well, yeah, because it was long before the rally started. Like, he's misfiring. His brain is obviously misfiring, but it's just pathetic. Get over it. And okay, let's move on to the economy, okay. So what Trump should be doing, what the Republicans should be doing is saying, right, immigration, let's go on substance. Let's talk about what we will actually do and what the other guys haven't done and how they failed. Let's talk about the economy, what we will do and what the other guys haven't done, how they failed and what we will do to make the country a better place and to make you feel it in a pocket. Rather than like what the Democrats, on the other hand, will want to do is saying he's only going to be for the rich. Tax cuts for the rich. He's just up for giving stuff to mega donors like Medals of Honor, Medals of Freedom. Sorry. So both sides need to be thinking about how they are strategically campaigning here. So the economy is important. What's fascinating here is Fox News quickly takes down the chyron or the ticker of the Dow having a record day, as he speaks about.
And these are animals, and we have to get them out of our country, or we have to put them in jail.
And just takes out. Oh, that's a little bit uncomfortable because it's actually showing really good, successful economy while Trump is speaking and trying to denigrate the Democrats. Now, I've talked to you previously about how the Harris-Waltz campaign operatives, the people in charge of social media, had the same people as Biden, as far as I can work out, same team, but they've been let off the leash now, and they're being funny and they're being pointed and they're absolutely winning it. They are producing some absolute diamond little sort of posters or whatever these are. So this is Harris Waltz, as the Republicans Against Trump says. The Harris campaign just released his statement ahead of Trump's press conference today. They're so good at this. So Harris Waltz, for planning purposes only, reluctantly, August the 15th, 2024, media advisory. Today, Donald Trump to ramble incoherently and spread dangerous lies in public, but at a different home. So this is before, it's just brilliant. Today at 4:30 p.m, Donald J. Trump, loser of the 2020 election by 7 million votes, will hold another public meltdown in Bedminster, New Jersey. And then it gives a date and time. The venue, not a battleground state. This is so pointed. It's like he's not going to the battleground states where he should be. He's giving this like rambling, or what will undoubtedly be a rambling, incoherent rally at somewhere that's not that important. And preview, not so fresh off the National Association of Black Journalists, Florida, and Twitter glitches, Donald Trump intends to deliver another self-obsessed rant full of his own personal grievances to distract from his toxic Project 2025 agenda, unpopular running mate, and increasing detachment from the reality of the voters who will decide the election. This is absolutely on point. This is so delightfully on point. These remarks will not be artificial intelligence, but they certainly will lack intelligence. Ouch. This is like Burn City. Banning abortion, raising costs on families, confusing basic facts, cutting Social Security and Medicare, blocking border security, and being publicly unstable, unfit, and unwell will not help his struggling campaign for president. Tune in for the same old thing. That's absolutely brilliant PR, in my opinion. That's just so well done. So anyway, what he did have was this, a few rallies. We're going to start here, actually, where he's talking about intelligence and rambling incoherently. Just listen to these words.
Virtually 100% of the net job creation in the last year has gone to migrants. You know that? Most of the job creation has gone to migrants.
So virtually 100% of job creation in the US has gone to migrants. Okay, where are your statistics for that? So this is actually a lie. So this is an overt lie that virtually 100% of jobs have gone to migrants. But it gets worse than this.
In fact, I've heard that substantially more than beyond the number of 100%. It's a much higher number than that, but
What?
Most of the job creation has gone to migrants. In fact, I've heard that substantially more than beyond the number of 100%. It's a much higher number than that, but the government hasn't caught up with that yet, but virtually
a much higher number than 100% of the jobs, but the government hasn't caught up with that yet. A much higher number. So what, 150% of the jobs? 150% of the jobs have gone to migrants. How does that work? Do you know maths? Do you understand maths? I can't believe people are going to vote for this. If you're watching this and you're still wanting to vote for Trump, I can offer you a frontal lobotomy. Okay. And then we have this. So this is where he then gives a press conference. It was a rambling, I think, hour-long. Was this the hour-long one as well? Supposed to be on the economy, right? He was like, I'm going to give my economy speech, right? And then it was just very little was on the economy. And what was on the economy was stuff like this. He had a couple of boxes of Cheerios at the front and was talking about inflation. And then this.
This is tic-tac. This is tic-tac. This is inflation. Look at this. So this is tic-tacs, right? I don't know if I like the company. I've never met. I have no idea. They're so lucky. Look at all the television. This is the greatest commercial they ever had. But that's what happened. This is inflation. This is tic-tac. This is tic-tac. This is inflation. This is what's happened. I just happened to have somebody gave me this one today. I said, I think we'll put it up as an example of inflation. But you know what? Inflation is destroying our country. This is.
Are you speaking to children? Are you speaking to stupid children? What? Are you speaking to stupid children that you want to also disinform? This is inflation. I've got a big thing and a smaller thing. This is inflation. It's ruining our country. This is inflation. Oh, somebody gave me that. I just had to bring it in to show you. Oh, that's so good. Oh, I'm such a genius campaigner. I don't think you're very well. Anyway, they talked about this on that same Pod Save America show, and yeah, let's see what they have to say here, shall we? Get it to the right place.
I'm going to start with the premise here that they held an event to highlight the high cost of living at a golf club where it cost $500,000 to join.
You don't think that's a good
truly
setting?
One of the fucking stupidest things I've ever seen a campaign do in my life. It's because he's too lazy to go do it at a grocery store. There's clearly a grocery store pretty close because they went and bought all the groceries. And this is a small thing that only people like us care about. But they set almost all the groceries up so they weren't in the camera shot.
Yeah,
so
it was just like him and a random box of Honey Bunches of Oats next to him.
Yes, there was Cheerios, 3 coffees, and some meat just sitting baking in the sun there for 2 hours.
Was it bear cut? Was it bear cut?
All these signs with that apparently had the increase like in egg costs or something over the course of the Biden-Harris administration. No one saw any of that. All they saw was 3 tubs of coffee, some rotting meat, and his golf club in the background. I mean, just insane. A truly insane thing for a campaign to do. Like, blown away by how stupid it was.
I think it's very funny that clip that we played of Republicans giving him advice. They're like, Kellyanne Conway's like, don't go with the personal insults. Talk about policy. And Nikki Haley's like, stop complaining about her. And then you heard there at the press conference, he's like, I'm entitled to my personal attacks on Kamala Harris. He just goes right into it.
Well,
they're laughing because he is genuinely, and I'm not saying this because I'm so anti-Trump. I am anti-Trump, right, for moral political reasons. But I'm also like astounded that he can be so incompetent at doing like the basic things. Like have a campaign manager. If I was a campaign manager, right, we want to talk to talk the economy, and we want to be attracting the middle class. We want to peel away some of those working class and middle class Americans from the Democrats, and we want to show that inflation's really hurting them in the pocket. So we want to go to a grocery store and really show this, really tangibly show this in context. No, I'm going to stand at a million Sponduli golf club that those people we're talking to are never going to get to, and then I'm going to get out some Tic Tacs and talk bollocks. You're like, okay, Trump, yeah, just please try and listen to me. But yeah, there you go. So anyway, they continue a little later to talk about this.
Today. I always do this. That future is today, where she is delivering a major economic policy speech. Unlike Trump.
So then the comparison, remember, I'm talking about like, how do you peel away? How do you talk to those people? How do you get them on board? How do you not only consolidate the base so the people that would normally vote for you are going to vote for you and not switch or vote third party? And then how do you peel off those others? So Trump's, I think, failed. He's only going to play to his base who will find some kind of weird joy in looking at big and little packs of Tic Tacs. But he's not going to peel off anyone else. And then you go to the Kamala Harris campaign that's doing things properly.
Trump, I think she's actually going to probably give the speech. He
didn't actually give an economics speech.
So the speech is going to be a federal ban on price gouging and other actions she'll take in her first 100 days to lower the cost of groceries and other everyday expenses. She will also reportedly call for the construction of 3 million housing units by offering tax incentives for builders that contract properties for first-time home buyers. What do you think of that? What do you think of those policies?
Love it. Love it. I feel like I was listening to a podcast recently that maybe they suggested this would be a good idea to do these economic speech right before the convention.
Was it Hacks on Tap?
Well, I listened to Hacks on Tap. I took that idea and brought it here. No, I mean, obviously they did not get this idea from our podcast. So be very clear about that. But I think this is very smart because I can get to the politics and the policy in a second here, but just she has this tremendous burden that she's been running for a month. She's about to give her convention speech. A normal candidate at this point who had not just started a month before the convention would have given 12 economic speeches over the course of the primary and the general election already. And you don't want your convention speech to be the State of the Union, which is like a laundry list of policies.
So he's saying that you normally would have given 12 economic speeches by now, bearing in mind that Trump has just given an economic speech that involved virtually no economics. And then here she is doing things properly. Yes, she's coming late to the table because she was only just taken over as the nominee. But yeah, you get the point. Right, what else do we have on Trump? Yeah, he's still repeating the stuff where he is pouring undue praise on dictators around the world that really scares the bejesus out of me. But anyway, this is Trump again.
The head of the Prime Minister of Hungary, very tough man, strong man, very, somebody that I always got along. I get along with the strong ones. I don't get along with the weak ones. Isn't that sad? That's a personality defect. Not the tough ones, but the tough ones are the ones we have to worry about, right? The head of.
Yeah, just that always worries me. He like, because the way he says it isn't like I get on with them so I can manipulate them. It's I get on with them because actually what I'm trying to do here is show you how much I appreciate those strong men. Because I said of King Jong-un, all his population sit up straight when he talks. I want my people to do that, as he was caught on Hot Mic saying. Like this isn't about getting a one up on the strong men. This is about wanting to be one of them with them. It's a big, big difference. Okay, something to watch out for in the election are the number of officials that the Republicans have put in place to challenge election results. So, breaking news here, another change to Georgia election rules is coming on Monday. The change, which the Trump-backed Georgia State Election Board is poised to approve, was advanced by Cleta Mitchell, who aided Trump's scheme to overturn the 2020 election. That's from a few days ago, so that probably will have happened now. I believe as well, I was listening to an interview the other night of a Georgian Democrat saying that actually they've got hundreds of attorneys in place, trained up and ready to try and deal with really problematic challenges to the democratic system. There is going to be a fight for democracy in November, mark my words, and the GOP are ready to challenge everything because they are going to whinge and whine if they don't win. It's like the Democrats can't win, and if they do win, it's because they cheated. Otherwise, it's just physically impossible for the Democrats to win, even though there are more registered Democrats and more Democrats full stop in the US than Republicans. They should win. If you're going to mobilize your base, both parties fully mobilize their base, the Democrats should win. And that's why there's always this idea that the higher the turnout, the more it's going to benefit Democrats. Now, we're not going to watch this, but Russell Waltz, Trump's former director of the Office and Management and Budget, and also Project 2025 co-author, was caught saying that Trump's rejection of Project 2025 is just politics. So, I mean, that's 9 minutes 51. But the idea that he didn't know anything about Project 2025 when it's written by his entire team of people. And he came out and said, some of it's abysmal, some of it's good, but, good luck to them. It's weird if you say something's abysmal, but good luck to you. Oh, that mass murder is abysmal. Good luck to him, though. You go and murder some people. It's just a weird thing to say, but it's also a lie. Like, everyone is fairly, I think, honest these days with accepting that he knew full well about Project 2025, and you got the co-author, the guy, one of the main Project 2025 guys, saying that, actually caught on camera saying, yeah, it's just politics that he said that. And I'd agree. Fred Trump III says his uncle, so this guy's got right to have some beef with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump said when he visited the White House that, his chronically disabled son, is basically, why is he getting aid? Have you thought about letting him die type thing? It's just like, But anyway, Fred Trump III's got a really, really salient point here. He says his uncle Donald is showing signs of dementia similar to his father and grandfather. So remember, this runs in the Trump family big time. So when people are saying that actually he's glitching in these speeches and he's saying crazy things, that actually many are saying that actually he's got more signs of dementia than Biden. Biden's got signs of aging. He's got an aging brain. Trump has arguably got a demented brain, and there have been some experts that have come out and stated this. Well, now you've got Fred Trump III saying, actually, I know what I saw in my grandfather. I know what I saw in Donald's older sister as well, as Aunt Marianne. It runs in a family. So this is, and again, I'm not going to. Well, I will play you a little bit of this.
But
right.
It runs in the family. He looks older, and I get it. I mean, I'm not saying anybody who is in that office looks different than when they come out. But the things he's spewing and the craziness, and he just can't stick to a message. And he used to be able to stick to a message. Now, like in North Carolina yesterday, he had one goal: talk about the economy. In a state, again, he shouldn't be at. He shouldn't be spending millions of dollars. So he goes to play the old merry tunes of craziness. And you can tell his base, while still amped up and dangerous, you can see them kind of chilling out a little bit on this play. It may be on its way to being played out. Not immediately. They're going to be there for this election. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, you could see it in the faces of some people. Like, why the hell am I here in Las Vegas? It's 110 degrees out, listening to, sharks and electric batteries.
Absolutely. Strategy. You've got to stay on target, and he's just not doing that. Interesting other bit of news came out. Quote from, from the Washington Post. 2 Secret Service officials familiar with Trump's security details said the manual that guides what protections should be provided generally recommends far fewer assets for Trump than he actually receives. In other words, all these complaints about the assassination attempt and that X and Y should have happened, actually he had far more protection than is the suggestion for someone in his position. So yeah, that's worth knowing. Right, in the run up to the DNC, I'm not going to do any DNC stuff, but my goodness, you should have seen the energy of both Waltz and Waltz and Harris. I think this was in Pennsylvania bus tour, where they're just going out and kind of spitball. This is not both of them here, and it's worth listening to both their speeches, but both of them were not telepromptering this. And you could tell it was rough and ready and raw, but the passion that you get out of this.
All here, we love our country. And we know our country is going to be as strong as our willingness to fight for it and to fight for what we stand for. You know, when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. When you stand for working people, you fight for working people. When you stand for freedom, whether it be to make decisions about your own body or love who you love, you fight for those things. When you believe in ending child poverty, you fight for that. When you believe in what we need to do to lift up the middle class, you fight for the middle class. These are the things we stand for, and these, therefore, are the things we fight for.
Now, that's a practice speech, yeah? She's not reading from a teleprompter, but that is her speech. And the cadence there and the use of repetition is very like a pastor would in a church service, kind of, and the repetition and then a repetition and a repetition, and just bring it up a notch each time. This is good kind of both speech writing and speech delivery. She's getting good at her stump speeches. This was a worry at the beginning of the campaign that she wouldn't be so good at that. She is appearing to be very good at that, as is Tim Walz as well. And that kind of impassioned talk that is speaking to the audience, not like, here's a big pack of Tic Tacs, here's a little pack of Tic Tacs, I want to insult Kamala Harris. Yeah, it's just chalk and cheese at the moment. Right, in the run up to the DNC as well, this is a bit cheeky. Project 2025 was projected on the Trump building in Chicago, along with other things as well. There were a few other things that they projected. Reminds me of Led by Donkeys, who are a British organisation that do this loads, and they project things on Houses of Parliament and on their kind of anti-Tory and whatnot, and they do stuff like that. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that one in there. And again, when you're talking about the economy, it's speaking to the middle class, speaking to the working class, putting money in their pockets or making things cheaper or so on and so forth. Instead, what Trump opts for is saying, oh yeah, you should. Elon Musk, as he did in the interview with Elon Musk, said, yeah, I respect you because you sack people who are going to go on strike. Well, is that going to attract your working class voter to you? And then he doubled down on that.
A conversation with Elon Musk earlier this week. I want to ask you about that. You praise how he treats workers, saying they go on strike and you say that's okay, you're all gone, so every one of you is gone. Are you really comfortable with companies threatening to fire workers who go on strike?
Well, no, I want companies to get workers that are going to love them and work for a wage that lets the company make a profit so they can go and expand. In that case, they moved, as you know, the company from California, Elon, from California to Texas because they were able to get things that California wouldn't give. And I did ask him one question. You're moving a very big company out of California that's been there for years.
They were able to get things that, a lack of workers' rights.
To Texas. Did the governor ever call you and say, like, let's work it out because we don't want to lose you? And he said he never called. Governor Newsom, he never called. And you would have thought, if I were governor of California and if Elon or anybody else, they have oil companies leaving, I would be calling. But no, Elon wants to run an efficient company, and if he has to he got rid of a lot of people on X or former Twitter. A lot of people gone, and it still works. It still works. So you got to run the company productively, and there are going to be a lot of jobs around.
Let's just dwell on that last point. Twitter works. He got rid of all the moderators. Twitter works. How great. Sandra Gozzi, if Musk doesn't comply with our EU laws, the union will close Twitter in Europe. That's just come out from the Wall Street Journal today. I think there's a looming scenario where the EU imposes a fine of billions of euros for flouting the Digital Services Act. Musk fails to repay the principal on his loan to buy Twitter, and a platform gets seized by the banks. Oliver Alexander here says, you are telling me that purchasing a platform that was struggling to break even for way above market value, only to then destroy its main source of revenue, wasn't a wise financial decision? And the article here, Elon Musk's Twitter takeover is now the worst buyout for banks since the financial crisis. Loans of around $13 billion have remained hung for nearly 2 years, bringing in interest payments but weighing on banks' balance sheets. So we go back to what Trump says.
X or former Twitter, a lot of people gone, and it still works.
It doesn't work, really. Like, not how people like. I mean, I use it effectively, but there are a lot of people who don't, and mainly advertisers. So just, yeah. Anyway, let's finally look, or not finally, we got, oh my goodness, I told you this would be a long one, and I'm really sorry for that. My goodness. Okay, polls. NBC News, Trump made, well, before we get to polls, a bit of fundraising, $300,000 on selling those Bibles. I'm not sure whether this is good or bad. I don't really know what to think about this. Like, selling the Bibles, I think, is terrible. I've heard many Christians, proper evangelical Christians, absolutely go hammer and tongs at Trump for doing this, because he's not a Christian, even though he claims he is. He's clearly not. But yeah, a standard copy is $60. The signed one was $1,000. He's made $300,000. So yeah, that's a bit of fundraising for that. Right. Okay, Senate polls. So polls up and down a ticket. I've got just a collection of ones. This is going back all the way to the 2nd of August. So bear in mind that is now 18 days out of date, but some of these take a long time to come through. Arizona has Gallego up 9 for Democrats. Georgia, Dems up 2. Michigan, Slotkins up 8. Nevada, Rosen up 18. North Carolina, Dems up 8. Pennsylvania, Casey up 13. Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin up 7. Now, this was part of the reason why Biden had to go, as according to many of these people around those battleground states, because they're saying, we are trending way above you. So Biden was below, but actually you're also bringing us down. So we should be even further ahead. But the problem for Biden was that he was trailing behind people that were lower down on the ticket than him, which showed that there was going to be real problems for getting him elected as president. And that was one of the issues that people had. Latino voters, this is going back to the 4th of August. The last poll was from the 5th of June, and that had Biden up 5. Now Harris is up 19, so she's picked up 14 points with Latino voters, which is incredibly significant. Remember, it's all about these different segments. Net favorability rating, Harris is looking good, as in she's holding her head above water at +1. That's the difference between favorability and unfavorability. Trump is -20 or -22%, which is that's a real issue there. That's the Ipsos ABC from the 13th of August. General election poll for black voters. This is a Suffolk B-rated poll, a B+ rated poll. Harris is +61 for black voters. That's a slight improvement from the last one I saw. So she's on 70. Trump's on 9%. So Trump seems to have dropped a little there. Harris on 70%, which is +59 on Trump in Pennsylvania for black voters. That's 70, and Trump is 11%. Actually, when I say it was better than it was previously, I was thinking nationally, so I'm not sure about that. But I'm fairly sure there will be improvements on certainly what Biden was posting. Jake Bro here says Trump is getting crushed in the polls 3 weeks after Biden gave up the nomination for Harris. Trump is down 85 electoral votes. Harris is up 69 electoral votes. Wisconsin has gone from barely GOP to barely Dem, +10 for Harris. Michigan, similar, +15 for Harris. Pennsylvania, +19 for Harris. Nevada, which is, these are all barely GOPs, and likely GOP to barely Dem at +6 for Harris. Arizona, likely GOP to barely Dem, +11 for Harris. Maine, barely GOP to likely Dem for Harris, +4 for Harris. New Hampshire, barely GOP to likely Dem, Harris +4. And North Carolina, likely GOP to exactly tied, -16 for Trump. Some movement there. So now, it does depend, actually, because it depends when the votes were, when the polls were taken and what the pollster is here. So, take that with a pinch of salt. He says, Jake Bro, Kamala Harris has also strengthened her polling numbers and is gaining on Trump in Texas, Florida, and Ohio. Democrats haven't even had their convention yet. So he's very buoyant there, bullish for the Democrats. General election poll in Arizona. This is from the 15th now, so we're getting closer to now. This is 5 days ago. Harris up 5 on Trump, 50-45, and that's with the Siena A-rated poll in Arizona, and that's a Sunbelt state, battleground state, really important. Now, the polling averages from Washington Post, you see a lot of red here, but actually they're pretty close. And remember, these are the averages over time. What we want to see is really the averages from the last 3 weeks. That would give you a really interesting summary, or snapshot. So these are all within a margin of error either way. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin for the Democrats, all the others marginally for the Republicans. But remember, that is an average poll over time when, we had Biden in previously. So the Senate poll in Ohio has Brown up 47. Is it Cheryl Brown? Up 5 on Moreno, 47-42. So it's looking at that's what's important about that is that's Rasmussen, who's a really strong, skews very strongly Republican. That's why it's a C-rated pollster, because it's not seen as particularly good, but it's very recent, 17th of August. Skews Republican and has in Ohio Brown well ahead of Moreno. And then we have we'll come back to Rasmussen in a second, a new ABC News Washington Post national poll, which is for likely voters. I don't know the date, but this is published on the 18th here on Twitter, so I presume it'd be fairly close to that. Has Harris 51 to Trump 45, so that's up 6 on likely voters. That's very important. So not just whether you're registered to vote, but actually look at your voting history. Are you likely to vote? Then we have members of the Republican House delegation are meeting tonight. This is breaking on the 16th of August. I haven't heard anything since it then. In panic because Donald Trump is losing badly and dragging down the poll numbers. Even Republicans are beginning to admit Trump is too old and senile to be a winning nominee. Now, that's a very biased way of communicating that, but I would be interested to see if there are seriously people meeting. I assume there would be. Something is going wrong. Now, the choice appears to be to get rid of Lasavita and Wiles. I would say that's a wrong decision if you want to win as a Republican ticket. Now, Trump is losing Pennsylvania, according to Rasmussen. So again, skews Republican big time. That's his favorite pollster. This is Trump's favorite pollster because it skews Republican. Harris is up 47 to Trump's 44 in Pennsylvania, and that's huge. Rasmussen shows Harris beating Trump in all 3 key swing states. Rasmussen says A's. Repeating Rasmussen. That's how bad it is that Rasmussen are doing that. And then Kamala Harris's election odds have just hit another record high. She's now leading Trump by 8 percentage points nationwide, according to Polymarket. That's a massive swing. The world's largest prediction market. This is Harris's largest lead to date. So 45% to 53%. That's where people are putting their money. And then what happens when the polls start really showing that you're in a lot of trouble? Well, JD Vance answers like this.
How does that not line up then with another poll we got out this morning? Washington Post, ABC, they're giving the vice president nationally a 4 to 5 point lead. Those are new numbers. So if you think the momentum is not swinging, or your internal polls are suggesting differently, every other poll that's been released has shown great momentum in her direction.
Shannon, I think there are a lot of polls that actually show her stagnating and leveling off. Of course, ABC Washington Post was a wildly inaccurate pollster in the summer of 2020. And look, if you see the numbers that we're seeing and you actually talk to the
What are those numbers?
American people, I feel extremely confident that we're going to be in the right place come November. We can't worry about polls. We have to run through the finish line and encourage everybody to get out there and vote. But our message is going to be very simple. If you want to get back to the peace and prosperity, the rising take-home pay, Donald Trump delivered it once and he can do it again. If you want to double down on the failed policies that have delivered higher food prices and higher housing prices, well, Kamala Harris has been vice president for 3.5 years, and I guarantee she's going to make the problem worse.
Of course, the answer to that is that the American inflation is much lower than it is everywhere else in the country, like in the world. Every country's got rising food prices, has had that. to staggering degrees. And the fact that the US has kept inflation to as low as it has and has now got deflation in certain sectors is incredible. So actually, the Democrats should be making an inflationary argument that is congratulatory of what they've done, even though it's hurting Americans in a pocket, but it's like, yeah, but thank God you're in America, not anywhere else.
The American people give for a promotion.
So
the thing we have to remember, one final point, let me just say one final point on this, Shannon, because I think it's important. Consistently, what you've seen in 2016 and 2020 is that the media uses fake polls to drive down Republican turnout and to create dissension and conflict with Republican voters. I'm telling you, every single person who's watching this, the Trump campaign is in a very, very good spot. We're going to win this race. We just have to run through the finish line.
We're in a very, very good spot, and the media uses fake polls to drive down Republican turnout. If in doubt, claim cheats. There you go. And then finally, on the polling front, new general election poll from Remington Research has Harris up 850 to 42, and that's from the 17th of August. So some really good polls. Okay, the final segment. Said it was a long one. Vance and Waltz have agreed to a vice presidential debate on October the 1st to be hosted on CBS News. That's really good news. I believe, in fact, we've got a bit of news on who he's getting to help him, and it's Tulsi. Yeah, here it is. Donald Trump has brought in Tulsi Gabbard, so the former Democrat who's then gone wingnut and gone a conspiracy theorist, a notorious Kremlin propagandist and Assad apologist, for debate preparation against VP Kamala Harris. The New York Times reports. So, Donald Trump's brought in Tulsi Gabbard. And the reason why that is because Tulsi Gabbard ran for president in 2020 when Kamala Harris did, and eventually became vice president. And Tulsi Gabbard did very well against Kamala Harris in debates then. So that's why they would have brought her in. This should tell you everything you need to about Trump and his campaign. I think it's simpler than that. I think it's like, you did well against her in those debates, so we'll get you in to get your advice. Okay, on other VP... this is just a great speech. I won't play it to you, but here is Tim Walz speaking at the Aliquippa High School football practice. So he is a coach himself, isn't he, Tim Walz? Tim Walz can walk into a football practice and communicate like this, makes him one of the strongest communicators in the Democratic Party.
It is just fun as heck to play the game.
And it only comes out one side this. So, but it's really worth listening to this, where it's just if you were one of the kids there listening to that, you would be totally enthused. So where Trump is going to his golf clubs and talking to people who are already like paid up MAGA members, and where JD Vance is going to very poorly attended gigs, if you like, Tim Walz is going to high schools and to talk to the young people and bring his coaching ability and enthuse them by saying, you can achieve anything. Like getting interested in politics. Politics is just like sport, and this is why it's like sport, and this is why you are the future. And it's just, you would come out of that just buzzing, is my opinion. It's just really, he's doing a really good job of public speaking. And then you've had these excerpts, or the whole chat really, and I say chat, it's not an interview, between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and it's so lovely. This I just absolutely love the naturalness that goes on here. That again, how does this play with the people in the centre, with suburban women, with so on and so forth? Is this going to peel away voters? Is this divisive? It's not divisive.
I was hoping maybe we wouldn't have to. I called you, Tim.
Yes.
You didn't answer, Tim.
I know.
What happened?
The most important call of my life. It popped up, and we didn't recognize the caller ID, and it went to voicemail.
Hi, this is Jim. I'm not able to answer.
There you go.
Possible. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, it's Kamala. I really want to talk to you.
It is an amazing privilege. I'm excited. I just want to be part of the excitement that you're generating.
Well, we're doing it together, buddy.
It's fun.
We're doing it together.
Just the language there, we're doing it together, buddy, and the ease that they talk to each other, the normality, or as Americans would say, the normalcy that's on the show here, it breathes regular people in a way that Trump speaking to JD Vance just doesn't. You know, these are two middle class people that come from fairly regular backgrounds and made their way up into politics. JD Vance, you know, hedge fund or whatever, and tech, and Trump being inherited millions and whatnot. Just do these, who speaks more to the middle American, and that's what they're going for here. And this kind of regular conversation, this is the stuff I want to hear.
So Tim, what's your relationship to music?
Yeah. For me, the transformational piece of music was Bruce Springsteen's The River, which is a journey. You know all the tracks, and I'm that guy. My first car, it's the summer 1980, been saving up. I buy a 1973 orange Chevy Camaro, got an 8-track player in it.
Oh, wow.
Previous owner left Bob Seger's Night Moves in there. I listened to it, and it's kind of the soundtrack of my life of Detroit's own Bob Seger. But what's really great about this is I have a 79 International as my car. It's got an 8-track player in it. I have the very 8-track to this day.
You're kidding me.
No, but how about you?
I grew up, so all these albums here, I mean, Aretha. My mother had every Aretha album, and like our Christmas gift to my mother, her birthday gift was always like, what's the latest Aretha Franklin record?
So it's on vinyl in your house as a background.
All of it. Wow. All that and Stevie.
And so they go on talking about this. And some of you who aren't fans of these guys, you're not going to vote Democrat. You're not bothered about this. You're thinking, what's all this fluff and guff? This is a waste of time. No, this is diamond stuff that will bring a sense of humanity across to people who are like, oh, what do I think about these? I'm a low information voter. I'm going to vote basically on who I like the most. It's a bit like how Boris Johnson got in and was so popular in the UK initially, is because I've spoken to people who've said this. I've seen many an interview about this, which is like, oh, he's funny, I like him. I know nothing about his politics, didn't vote for him at all on his politics, just I liked him as a guy. He was funny. Well, if you like these as human beings, if they don't divide you and your family, if you see them speak and you're like, oh yeah, I can imagine being in that room in part of that conversation, then this is this is really useful, and the Republicans realize that this has been quite a useful video for the Democrats, and they've tried to attack Tim Walz on this part of it, which I think is just lovely, and it's sort of a nice bit of humor. They're calling it like reverse racism.
I have white guy tacos and
what is
like
that?
black,
like mayonnaise and tuna? What are you doing?
pretty much ground beef and cheese.
That's okay. Do you put any flavor in it?
No.
Oh.
Here's the deal. No, they said to be careful and let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota,
I'm the first.
I love that. Black pepper's top of the spice ladder in Minnesota. And he's talking about having white guy tacos. She's like, what, mayonnaise and tuna mayonnaise. It is like ground beef, no spices. But I like that sort of self-deprecating humor and like understanding. Republicans go, oh, that's reverse racism. And yeah. Anyway, talking about that kind of normality, here are these guys again.
And look at them running around the country acting like idiots.
I think the most effective part of what Walz has said, like put the word weird aside, the part where he comes back to this over and over again, which is some version of, could you imagine Donald Trump or JD Vance doing normal things, making a McFlurry, whatever it might be.
Laughing, smiling.
Yeah. It's such a smart, like Tim Walz just screams fucking normal. Just like, I'm a normal dad. There was a moment tonight where his two kids were doing the rabbit ears behind him. And you just know, like you can't teach it. You can't pretend. You can't fake it. Like he is that guy. Like
Kamala Harris also screams normal.
And like, that's why throughout this, like, she grew up middle class. She worked at McDonald's. Like, these are just two normal people. I think she escaped some of the misogyny that hit Hillary Clinton in part because this was kind of thrust upon her, right? So she retained some of her kind of normalcy. And Donald Trump, like the otherness of him, the strangeness of him, like kind of really is like a direct hit on the populism he's trying to claim. It like really is like an effective way to like blunt the power that I think he had, and he just doesn't know what to do with it.
Can I slightly disagree here?
Yeah.
I am very resistant to strategies that are about triggering Trump to do something, because you got to get a persuadable voter's attention twice. You got to get them you basically have to get them to pay attention to what you're saying, and you got to get them to understand what Trump is responding to. And that's just too much context.
Mm-hmm.
I fundamentally agree that the beauty of the strategy, to the extent sort of underlying weirdness, is mockery. And that is a thing that I think Harris has done, and Waltz obviously has done incredibly well, is when Trump attacks them, they smile and laugh.
Yeah.
They don't just get all serious and stentorian and like just because we have and this is, I've been really thinking over the last couple of weeks, particularly as we've been here today, like what is different? The difference is that Kamala Harris has made politics about something other than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like she parries him, right? Just like when
brush him off.
He questioned her racial identity and said she lied about being black. And her response was to smile, kind of laugh, dismiss it right away. And that is the way you do this.
Yep.
It's the way Obama would do it.
It's really important. And so they started talking about the normality that these two have. That's just two normal people. And I think that plays really well with certain demographics that are going to be important. And the way that they're dealing with the kind of crazy stuff that Trump is saying, just batting it away, almost matter-of-factly. And then that kind of normality is seen here, where they then just get on the phones themselves. Can you see Trump doing this? Can you see Trump and Vance doing this?
That's where, people, you're there on the ground, people, you develop those relationships.
So they're working the phones in Pennsylvania themselves. Just, again, it's exactly that kind of everyday people that I think Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are showing they are. And what do we have? The final thing, because we're talking about VPs, this is a VP section. I'm just going to end on JD Vance. So Ron Filipkowski says, as a Marine, I find this utterly repulsive. Donald Trump lied and his daddy had a doctor commit fraud so he can avoid the draft. Trump has never been faithful to the country or his wives. This disgusting creature needs to stop perverting our motto for his political ambitions. So this is JD Vance.
But the one thing that I think the Marines really do is we have the best motto. I have a favorite motto of the U.S. military, and of course I'm biased, but Semper Fidelis, always faithful, right? You hear Marines say it all the time, Semper Fi. And to me, what it means is that Marines are always faithful to our country and to our brothers and sisters in arms, but it also has another meaning, which is that we always have to be faithful to all of the members of our military who served this country and did so honorably. And you heard Jim Banks talk about this. To all of the members of our military who served this country and did so honorably. And you heard Jim Banks talk about this a little bit, and I want to expound upon it because I really do think that Donald Trump exemplifies that motto, because his government and under his leadership, the United States was always faithful to the veterans of this country, and that's something for us to be proud of. His record and his vision is a vision of always being faithful to those who put on the uniform. And he didn't just
Suckers and losers, slagging off John McCain for getting captured, becoming a prisoner of war, and then saying the Medal of Freedom is much better than the Medal of Honor. Just your words are worth nothing there, Vance. Anyway, that's my analysis of what's going on. Yeah, I'm biased, but again, like if I was really wanting Trump to win, like everything that he and Vance are doing that is wrong. Everything they're doing is wrong. They are taking the wrong tack strategically in their campaign. And I think Harris and Waltz are taking the right tack, and that's why you are seeing the change in polls. If that wasn't happening, the polls would look different. The polls don't look different because of all the things I've shown you and all the things I'm saying. These things have traction, and the polls reflect that. And the enthusiasm reflects that. And you can see the enthusiasm at the DNC that's taking place at the moment, and some of those speeches that are being absolutely killer speeches. And I don't think the Republicans have got any momentum at all now. And I struggle to see how they're going to gain momentum. I really do. Anyway, it's been a huge bumper one. Thanks so much for indulging me. Take care, everybody, and speak soon.